tuning in to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with the Acadiana Advocate and the larger Advocate and Times-Picayune news organization. We thank them for providing journalism, and as a community service, we provide an audio version of the Advocate's printed journalism. We could not do this without the generous support and volunteer efforts of our volunteer newsreaders, people like the fabulous Mr. Bruce Cohen, who is with us this morning. Good morning, Bruce.
I like that, the fabulous.
That's a good honor for you.
Well, I love to hear what you're going to say when you introduce me, because it's different every time. But you're fabulous as well.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. And I am going to go fabulously listen to you deliver the news on Cypress Street Radio. Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Fabulous. Well, folks, good morning, Acadiana. Like Matt, the main man, said, it's Local News Live for November 16th, 2020. And we're going to start off with, unbelievably, a couple of stories that don't involve coronavirus or the election or any kind of political news. There's a couple of areas in the Acadiana area that are transforming. And one of them is New Iberia. So I'll read a couple of those stories first to start off with the local news. Residents, business owners laud mayor's master plan for downtown as a shot in the arm we need by Adam Daigle, Acadiana business editor. Barbara Bozeman taught high school for 33 years in New Iberia, but it's the past 4 years that may have been some of the hardest. Her husband died of cancer. Her 3 children were concerned about her well-being. So last year they got together and bought Maison Le Rosaire, a bed and breakfast on East Main Street, and dropped about $150,000 worth of upgrades into the property. With its main house and 6 suites across the street from Shadows on the Teche, it's enough to keep Bozeman busy in the city she moved to 50 years ago because it was her husband's hometown. Now she's a member of the Greater Iberia Chamber of Commerce, is involved in other civic activities. She's seen how the city has improved in recent years, and Mayor Freddie DeCourt and other officials there have engineered some significant changes in the city on Bayou Teche since voters approved bringing back its police department in 2017. Now DeCourt has a long list of capital projects, mostly in the downtown area. He spent 2 weeks giving presentations to anyone interested as part of an urban development master plan to keep the momentum going. What momentum? Well, DeCourt was unopposed this past election cycle, and he met with Governor John Bel Edwards on Thursday to discuss how he's looking to improve the city. I love New Iberia, really and truly, said Bozeman, a Houma native, who met her husband while they attended Grambling State University. A lot of people say the crime rate is too high, and at one point they were saying it was not progressive. And as soon as the mayor took over, we cured a lot of that. People will continue to say things they're not familiar with, but I love this town. I would not move from here. Any discussion of New Iberia outside of the city often turns into one about crime. It's something city leaders had to shake since it disbanded its police force in 2004. And former Sheriff Louis Acko was acquitted of federal civil rights charges despite 10 of his deputies pleading guilty. It was the main reason DeCourt first injected himself into only city politics, recalling how he could just see a train wreck coming of crime and no growth when the city opted to pay the Iberia Parish Sheriff's Office to patrol its streets. City's crime rate dropped significantly that first year after bringing back its police force in 2018, going from 5.3 violent crimes per 1,000 to only 1.4 in the first year. We're trying to change the perception with some people about New Iberia, said Kathy Indest, president of the Iberia Cultural Resources Association. When they realize what the mayor has already done and is planning to do, they will realize what an amazing community New Iberia is. Not only will it draw visitors, It will make many people want to come and live here. And the master plan and its development along Bayou Teche has residents particularly optimistic. Plan features a Fulton Street shoreline park, which will have a boat dock and connect downtown to the bayou instead of the current layout, where downtown sort of dissolves the closer you get to the water. Also in the plan are an amphitheater and stage at Bellini Plaza to encourage more outdoor entertainment along Fulton Street. Market Row in the parking lot to hold farmers markets events, and a Veterans War Memorial at Bellini Plaza to honor the city's veterans. Why developed by water? Because Bayou Teche is New Iberia. We've been here since 1799, the court said. The bayou was the highway. It was where our major commerce was until probably the turn of the century. Then it seemed like we turned our back on the bayou. I live on the bayou, something I've always wanted to see the town embrace that. It's another way to tell our story. Plans also include new signage, streetscaping, parking improvements along St. Peter Street, a pocket park at Dupier Avenue across the bayou, a canoe and kayak park near the pocket park, and a city slips park to promote tourism and get boating events downtown. Plan also includes expanding the Bayou Teche Museum, refurbishing the Slyman Theater, marquee and enhancements to Church Alley. Presentation also highlighted possible improvements in other areas of the city, including Acadiana Ballpark. Funding for these projects would come from aggressive attempts at securing giant funding and acting as funding becomes available. The court staff has landed about $10 million in grants, a couple million spent, and the rest are coming, he said. Museum project is funded at about $1.1 million and set to go out for bid, with another $1.1 million coming next year to finish the interior, the court said. The kayak dock got federal approval and will be out for bid soon. Even with the coronavirus shutdowns earlier this year, the city's sales tax collections remain on pace to surpass last year's total of just under $17 million, according to data from the Iberian Parish School Board. The city has also put about $3.5 million into the general fund this year, the court said. Give Freddie the credit, he is so dynamic and has done so much for the city of New Iberia, said State Representative Bo Bellio, Republican of New Iberia. This is complete out-of-the-box thinking for him. It's a long-term vision for everybody to see. I'm super impressed with what he's putting together. He's funding a lot of stuff already through grants and not having to go to the taxpayers for extra dollars. It's that emphasis on downtown that caught the attention of J.D. Regard, the chief nut officer at Cane River Pecan Company, which moved downtown into 2018 thanks to a $1 million renovation project. City gets visitors who are on their way to Avery Island to visit the Tabasco plant. He said, and the city needs a vibrant downtown to bring people in. I believe our pecan company, family owned for 51 years, belonged on Main Street, Regard said. He wants some locals that can make something work to draw people downtown. Tabasco is one of the most visited tourist stops outside the city of New Orleans. We have a lot of businesses, and I'm one of them. They try to feed off of that. What Freddie is trying to do is a kind of shot in the arm we need. Getting the public to buy in likely won't be a problem, said DeCord, who is eligible to run for one more term as mayor in 2024. His methods are similar to what worked to pass that half-cent sales tax in 2014 to fund the police department, he said, which involved several public speaking engagements to stay ahead of the conflict. And the master plan could be transformative for New Iberia, where Southern charm meets oil and gas and sugar, Bellio said. This is a very broad approach, he said. It's kind of like, excuse me, these are all of our issues and let's do something with all of them. We can't fix them all completely, but the more you get attention and the more you give your citizens hope, the more you give your citizens a reason to stay here, come back here and have a new family to move here. And it's a success. And for those who like film, This past weekend, they had the Iberia Film Festival as a side note, which premiered films made exclusively in Louisiana and by Louisiana artists. And they've been having that film festival for a few years now. So continuing with this idea of towns rebuilding themselves, let's go over to Broussard. Broussard officials OK master plan funding. Initial phase to focus on a stretch of Main Street by Adam Daigle, the Acadiana business editor. City officials in Broussard have okayed spending $2.4 million on the first phase of the city's downtown development plan. City Council approved an ordinance for the funding to be spent to the stretch of Main Street from South Bernard Road to Clara Street. It will include drainage improvements along with an entry gateway structure and welcome signage and a 10-foot wide concrete walking and biking path. It will also feature benches, trash receptacles, new lighting, bicycle stations, commemorative markers, and other signage, ornamental trees, and landscape beds. The project is in the engineering phase with construction set to begin early next year. I want to thank the City Council for their approval and funding of the first phase of the landmark revitalization project for downtown Broussard. Mayor Ray Bork said, "This is the first step to not only complete much needed infrastructure improvements, but also to create something that will be beautiful and have economic benefit for our city, a legacy that will benefit generations to come." The project was a result of the public charrette held last year when city officials teamed with the Lafayette Economic Development Authority and the B&A Planning Group to coordinate the charrette to develop a master plan for the city. The process included sessions with public officials, consultants, stakeholders, landowners, and the public to produce a vision for development. Duplantis Design Group presented its preliminary plan for phase one to the council on an October 27th meeting. City officials unveiled the master plan earlier this year that identifies 6 regions with 5 gateways to set a foundation for future growth along Main Street, including downtown, in-town Sacred Heart Church, East Gateway Suburban Edge, Parkway Transition, Downtown East, and West Gateway Bernard Road. All the selections would have common elements, including 10-foot multi-use paths for pedestrians and bicyclists, 2 11-foot lanes for vehicle traffic, consistent banners and lighting elements, shade provisions, and drainage standards. Developing Clifton Guidry will build Park Des Amis, a retail development at 403 East Main Street with a planned courtyard and gazebo, and the Saks condominiums at 70 East Main Street. Okay, we're going to, it's almost 15 minutes past the hour, so I'm going to read a couple of service announcements. Vitalant, urgent need for blood donations. Blood and platelet donations are often dropped during the holiday months as fewer donors are available because of seasonal activities and illnesses. But this year, the outlook is particularly worrisome, with many schools transition to virtual learning and businesses in work from home situations. About 1,600 Vitalant blood drives have already been canceled for November and December. Currently, there is an urgent need for O-negative blood, universal blood type that all patients can receive. O-negative donors can maximize their impact by giving a power red donation. Donors are encouraged to make an appointment by visiting vitalant.org, that's vitalant.org, or by calling 877-25-VITAL, or you can stop by the blood donor headquarters here in Lafayette on Bertrand Street, just up from Congress, and just a couple blocks up from the Cajun Dome or Cajun Field. CIS invites patients to participate in the Great American Smokeout. Make an appointment for this week, November 16th through the 20th, starting today. All Cardiovascular Institute of the South clinics are celebrating the Great American Smokeout. The official day is this Thursday, November 19th, by scheduling appointments for the CIS Commit to Quit Tobacco program. This will be a week-long tobacco event, and CIS's theme this year is Distance Yourself from Tobacco. Commit to Quit at CIS combines medical evaluations, medications, both prescription and nicotine replacement, and supportive counseling services, both individually and as a group. Some of these services may be available to Louisiana residents free of charge through benefits of the Louisiana Smoking Cessation Trust. Smoking is the largest preventable risk factor of cardiovascular disease. Eliminating the use of tobacco dramatically reduces the risk of cardiovascular diseases, cancer, and lung disease. CIS works with each patient individually on a personalized quit plan. To schedule your consult, please register at gaso2020.eventbrite.com or call 1-877-288-0011. That's 877-288-0011. You can learn more about the program at their website, cardio.com/tobacco-free. Okay, request for mosquito control now available through Lafayette 311, Mosquito Prevention and Safety. LCG, or the Lafayette Consolidated Government, is increasing the mosquito abatement efforts in the parish. An increase in mosquito activity is a common occurrence following the storm event, such as the many that we've had this past year or this year. Citizens noticing an influx of mosquitoes in the area can now use the Lafayette 311 portal to request service. All submitted requests are routed directly to Mosquito Control Services, the mosquito control contractor for the parish. Okay, getting back into our news. Sticking with local news, students, teachers reflect on unusual school year. Well, let's see. That's more of a state news. Let's see. Here's a story that's local. Girard Park gathering ends in chaos. Police say 2 injured in shooting by Katie Gagliano, staff writer. Kimon Savoy and his extended family were enjoying a Saturday meal together in Girard Park, reminiscing and catching up in honor of his deceased great aunt when gunshots rang out. The 22-year-old South Louisiana Community College student said the shift in atmosphere was stark. One moment his ears were filled with laughter, the next he turned and saw his cousin lying on the ground bleeding. The injured man first fell to his knees and slumped into his stomach between the Girard Park Pavilion, where the family was seated, and the basketball courts off Girard Park Drive. There was a blur of red, pink, and white and blue as people fled at the sound of the shooting, Savoy said. I look around and everybody scatters. There's no let me pinpoint somebody that may or may not have a gun. Everybody moved, he said. Savoy and none of the family members rushed to help, immediately called 911, which helped others apply pressure to the gunshot wound, which Savoy and another family member said went in through the victim's stomach area and out through his back. The injured cousin was relatively calm and was responsive after being shot, they said. Savoy said family also tried to calm his cousin's girlfriend, pregnant woman, and was hyperventilating while frantically checking on the victim, whose name was not provided. Lafayette Police spokesperson Sergeant Wayne Griffin said the shooting was reported around 5:15 p.m. The victim was transported to a hospital with injuries that were not life-threatening. Griffin said in a 9 p.m. statement that a second victim approached officers at the hospital and reported he suffered a gunshot wound to the leg in the same incident. He was taken to the hospital in a private vehicle. Both victims were in stable condition Saturday night, Griffin said. Little other information, including details about a possible suspect, was available. Savoy and at least 30 other family members, many in matching shirts bearing the illness of their deceased relative, 64-year-old Mary Alice Savoy, enjoyed a hodgepodge of Popeyes, pizza, and home-cooked food, while dozens of other people exercised played basketball, lounged, and passed a volleyball nearby, taking advantage of the pleasant Saturday weather. The group wasn't even supposed to be there, he said. The plan was originally to meet at Park Harding and Bro Bridge, but at the last minute, the family opted to gather at Girard Park instead. We don't get together like we used to at all, so today was kind of like a get-together. It was a let's catch up laugh, and that's what we were doing, laughing and having a good old time. Then in the blink of an eye, it goes from order to chaos, Savoy said. It was a heavy day between the shooting and his great aunt's funeral in Barrow, Savoy said. The Arnoldville native said he's never seen anything like the shooting, and his hands shook as he filled out a report for responding police officers. It was scary, a family member said. I'm more than likely still in shock over everything. It's more than likely going to hit me when I go home, Savoy said. Okay, so moving on. School closing for 2 weeks. Southside High transitions to virtual learning by Megan Wyatt, staff writer. Southside High School will close for 2 weeks beginning Monday, today, because a significant portion of the student body has come in close contact with people who tested positive for the coronavirus. Lafayette Parish School System announced Sunday that Southside will immediately transition to virtual learning for all students through November 30th. The Youngsville School will be closed to all students and the public, but staff will report into school to continue virtual education, according to a school system news release. In addition, all extracurricular activities have been canceled until further notice. The number of COVID-19 cases on campus remains low, according to the school system, but the number of students quarantined because of close contact is about 11%. Upon conducting necessary contact tracing, a large number of Southside High School students are in quarantine. Health officials have determined students did not have an exposure to COVID-19 at school. According to the school system, the exposures are attributed to community spread through activities outside the school setting. Therefore, we implore our entire community to join us in helping slow the spread of this virus, the school system said in a statement. Especially with flu season beginning, mitigation measures outside the school day and on weekends are extremely important. We want to remind everyone to wear masks, limit large gatherings, and be proactive in social distancing. Information for students will be provided by school administration. Last week, several other schools in Acadiana announced they were shifting to all virtual classes or canceling sporting events in response to an increase in coronavirus cases on campuses. In a video message Thursday, Vermilion Parish School Superintendent Tommy Byler informed families that Erath High School will shift to full virtual learning through November 20th, the beginning of the district's Thanksgiving break, and will cancel the school's next 2 planned football games after an outbreak on the team. Byler said Friday there were 6 cases among Erath students and a couple additional cases among staff members. Altogether, there are about 11 active student cases in the Vermilion Parish School District and 6 to 7 adult cases, he said. Most of the community spread is being traced to Halloween and homecoming parties, as well as some spread from normal school activity. Laurelville High School in Iberia Parish announced Wednesday that students should shift to full virtual instruction through November 20th because of COVID-19 cases. The school's next 2 scheduled football games were also canceled, along with all other extracurricular activities, School Superintendent Carrie Lafayette said. At Iota High School in Acadia Parish, the Athletic Boosters Association posted a notice on its website that due to a COVID situation beyond our control, the November 6th game against Pine Prairie High and then November 13th game against Northwest High were canceled. Opelousas and Beauchene High Schools in St. Landry Parish have also canceled their next 2 football games. 1 football player at Opelousas High School tested positive, and 2 players at Beauchene High have tested positive as well, School Superintendent Patrick Jenkins said Friday. Both teams are quarantining. St. Thomas More Catholic High School in Lafayette announced in a Thursday email to parents that students would shift to virtual learning through November 20th after a rise in cases at the school. The message said 9 students had tested positive, resulting in roughly 10% of the student body quarantining for possible exposure. For the safety of our STM community, we have made this decision in order to mitigate the virus and hopefully replace or reduce the spread. We feel that 1 week of virtual learning and 1 week of the Thanksgiving holidays will minimize the number of cases on campus, the email said. Okay, we're now going to turn to our day in history. We're pretty close to the half-hour mark, so we will start with the day in history and the zodiac, or the horoscope, as I like to refer to it as. So today in history, today is Monday, November 16th, the 321st day of 2020. There are potentially 45 shopping days left in the year. Today's highlight in history on November 16th, 1933, the United States and the Soviet Union established diplomatic relations. On this date in 1776, British troops captured Fort Washington in New York during the American Revolution. 1907, Oklahoma became the 46th state of the Union. In 1914, the newly created Federal Reserve Banks opened in 12 cities. In 1970, the Lockheed L-1011 TriStar jetliner went on its first flight from Palmdale, California. In 1982, an agreement was announced in the 57th day of a strike by the National Football League players. 1991, former Louisiana Governor Edward Edwards won a landslide victory in his bid to return to his office, defeating State Representative David Duke, a former Ku Klux Klan leader. And then there'll be a story about Mr. Edwards later on in the broadcast. 2001, investigators found a letter addressed to Senator Patrick Leahy, Democrat from Vermont, containing anthrax. It was the second letter bearing the deadly germ known to have been sent to Capitol Hill. 2004, President George W. Bush picked National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice to be his new Secretary of State, succeeding Colin Powell. In 2006, Democrats embraced Nancy Pelosi as the first female House Speaker in history, but then selected Steny Hoyer as Majority Leader against her wishes. In 2017, Minnesota Democratic Senator Al Franken became the first member of Congress to be caught up in a wave of allegations of sexual abuse and inappropriate behavior after a Los Angeles radio anchor accused him of forcibly kissing her and groping her during the 2006 USO tour. Franken eventually resigned from the Senate. Also on this date in 2018, a U.S. official said intelligence officials had concluded that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman had ordered the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. 10 years ago, President Barack Obama presented the Medal of Honor to Army Staff Sergeant Salvatore Giunta, the first living service member from the Afghanistan and Iraqi wars to receive the nation's top military award. 5 years ago, President Barack Obama in Turkey for a meeting of world leaders conceded the Paris terrorist attacks were a terrible and sickening setback in the fight against the Islamic State, but forcefully dismissed critics who had called for the U.S. to change or expand its military campaign against the extremists. 1 year ago, transcripts released in the impeachment inquiry showed Ambassador Gordon Sondland played a central role in President Donald Trump's effort to push Ukraine to conduct political investigations as a condition for receiving needed military aid. And that investigation was of Biden and his son Hunter. Today's birthday, actor Clu Gulager is 92 years old today. And just a personal side note, I'm a professional actor, both stage and film, and Clu Gulager was my teacher in Los Angeles during the 80s. So Clu is 92 years old today. It's just amazing. I took an incredible acting class from him. Superior, he taught me a lot. Journalist Elizabeth Drew is 85 years old. Blues musician W.C. Clark, 81. Actor Steve Railsback, 75. Actor David Leisure, 70. Actor Mark Helgenberger, 62. Former MLB All-Star pitcher Dwight Gooden is 56. Jazz singer Diana Krall, 56. Actor Lisa Bonet, 53. Actor Martha Plimpton is 50. Rock musician Corey McCormick from Lucas Nelson and the Promise of the Real, Lucas Nelson being Will Nelson's son, and he's 44. And actor Maggie Gyllenhaal, 43, and former NBA player Ahmad Stoudemire is 38 years old today. Turning to the zodiac of the horoscope, if you're a Scorpio between October 24th and November 22nd, do things your way. Do what's right for you, not what everyone else wants you to do. Change begins with a healthy mind and a passionate heart. Sagittarius, November 23rd through December 21st, my wife's birth sign. The improvements you make will impress a loved one. Discipline will help you reach your goal. Moderation will be essential to avoid loss. Put the past behind you. Capricorn, December 22nd through January 19th, my oldest son's birth sign. Follow through with your plans, embrace what lies ahead, and discard what no longer matters. A domestic change will lead to renewed energy. Aquarius, January 20th through February 19th, evaluate your life. Consider what you can do to improve your situation. Focus on home, family, and finances. A romantic gesture will bring you closer to a loved one. Pisces, February 20th to March 20th, consider what you want and how to best deal with your responsibilities. Look for reliable people who can contribute to your plans and use persuasive tactics to get them on board. Aries, March 21st through April 19th, make peace of mind your objective. Taking pride in and enjoying what you do is essential. Choose love over discord. Listen to what others have to say. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Taurus, April 20th through May 20th, dig deep and get the facts before you make a life-altering decision. Protect your reputation and position. Avoid joint ventures. Certain matters will be very complicated, so tread carefully. Gemini, May 21st through June 20th. My youngest son's birth sign. Seek out like-minded people. Romance is encouraged. Take the high road, regardless of what others do. Teaming up with a partner is recommended as long as you both see eye to eye. Cancer, June 21st to July 22nd, you'll be fighting a losing battle if you can't see all sides of a situation. Look for innovative ways to work with the opposition and make a difference. Take control. Leo, July 23rd through August 22nd, my mom's birth sign. Take action, get things done, and follow through with the promises you make. Be a leader, not a follower, and the outcome will favor you. Romance is featured. Virgo, my birth sign, August 23rd through September 22nd. Don't let emotional problems interfere with your job or ability to make decisions. Stay focused on what's essential and make stability a priority. Fight uncertainty. And finally, Libra, September 23rd through October 23rd. Rely on facts, truth, and the people who will never let you down. Refuse to give in to unrealistic demands. Separate yourself from people who don't share your values. And as always, folks, the horoscope is an entertainment feature not based on scientific fact. And according to the Advocate, they don't have any funerals listed in the Acadiana area for today. Okay, so getting back into the news cycle, before we do that, let's look at a couple more public service announcements. The Acadiana Symphony Orchestra, or ASO, announces that they are shifting the fall portion of the ASO 36 revival season to a virtual live streaming platform. ASO believes that this is the unquestionable solution to keeping our community safe while still providing opportunities for local musicians to share their passion and earn income despite mandated restrictions and uncertain venue viability. Acadiana Symphony Orchestra has and will always remain committed to providing outstanding performances to Acadiana and fueling the economy of our region. Symphony businesses and organizations around the country are having to rethink, retool, and reinvent. and we are no different. So thank you for your grace and your patience as we map out the next few months. We are working tirelessly behind the scenes to solidify plans for these virtual concerts, and it's our commitment to you that we will clearly and concisely communicate ASL 36 Revival season details in the coming weeks. At a minimum, we are certain that you will receive the highest quality live stream performances where you can join them from virtually anywhere. So the lineup goes, they just had a performance this past Friday on November 13th. The next performance will be a performance entitled Believe on Thursday, December 17th, 2020. Then you'll have Adore. They will present Adore on Friday, February 12th, 2021, which will be held at the Acadian Center for the Arts virtually. Empower, Friday, April 16th, 2021 from St. John's Cathedral virtually, and Revive, Thursday, May 13th, 2021 at St. Mary's Church, and that will also be virtual. AOC teams up with the United Way of Acadiana for Learn United. United Way of Acadiana has teamed up with AOC and other local educational groups for Learn United, bridging the digital gap to provide educational resources for households that don't have internet but do have a television. The Learn United program airs weekdays from 8 to 2 on AOC 2, Cox 16, LUS 4, and streaming at aocinc.org/watch. For daily schedules and to submit content for the program, visit the United Way of Acadiana website, unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. Okay, we'll get back into our news cycle. And unfortunately, here is a coronavirus story. Can't do the broadcast each morning now without a coronavirus related, but we already had a few according to the schools. COVID-19 rapid spread points to the new Louisiana spike by Jeff Adelson, staff writer. Louisiana's coronavirus cases continue to surge over the weekend, further solidifying the evidence that the state is starting a third major outbreak, as infections are hitting record levels nationwide. The number of newly reported cases on Sunday contributed a sharp climb, bringing the weekly total to nearly twice where it was just 7 days ago. And that's been accompanied by a steady increase in hospitalizations. 753 people hospitalized with coronavirus on Saturday is 21% higher than the number a week before. The climbing infection and hospitalization rates have already generated alarm from state and some local officials in Louisiana, with warnings that if the case count continues to rise, restrictions may need to be tightened to tamp down the virus's spread. Susan Hasek, an I worked on this word last night. Epidemiologist, yay! Susan Hasek, an epidemiologist at Tulane University, said the state appears to be headed in that direction once residents take it upon themselves to better adhere to precautions that can limit new infections, such as wearing masks and reducing close contact with others. I don't think it's certain yet, but if things go the same way for another week or two, we will need to do some pullback, because that will mean people aren't acting the way they need to and using the tools we have to limit the spread of the virus, Hasek said. She said there is still time to turn things around. We have the agency and we have the capacity to slow it down, she said. If 85% of the population of Louisiana wore masks every time they left the house for 3 weeks even, we would see a substantial decrease in the virus. The past week has seen nearly 9,000 new coronavirus cases confirmed in Louisiana, the biggest increase in known infections since the state's summer outbreak. That second wave peaked at 15,000 new cases per week in late July, though the state was doing roughly 30% more testing at the point than it completed this week. Louisiana already bears the unfortunate distinction of being the only state to see cases and deaths increase dramatically, both during the initial outbreak in the spring, which otherwise was most devastating on the east and west coast, and during a second wave in the summer that primarily affected the Sun Belt. The current wave started in the Midwest, but major increases have since been reported across the country. The 19 largest daily increases in the cases in the country have all come since October 23rd, according to data from the COVID tracking project, including a record-setting 170,792 new cases on Friday. At the national level, every day since Tuesday has set a record for the number of people hospitalized with coronavirus, and officials in some hard-hit areas have warned they lack the intensive care beds and staff to treat all the patients they are seeing. Other states have suffered badly in the first wave, such as New York and California, implemented much more draconian restrictions on businesses than Louisiana, where many establishments, including restaurants and bars, have been allowed to reopen, though at diminished capacities. Instead, Louisiana stressed the importance of more difficult to police measures, such as wearing masks, and encouraged widespread testing. The number of new tests in Louisiana have not yet begun to climb significantly, though it can take weeks for a patient to succumb to the virus after diagnosis. A total of 88 deaths were recorded over the last week. During the height of the spring outbreak, Louisiana was seeing more than twice as many deaths. Continuing with the coronavirus news, students, teachers reflect on unusual school year by Will Santel. East Roma High School senior Joanne Nicole Johnson, who was kind of scared before school began, saying taking classes amid the coronavirus pandemic is getting better than expected. Johnson wakes up at 6:50 a.m., has a granola bar, and heads to her desk for another day of virtual learning from home. It makes me more independent than I really am, she said. I honestly like it. It gives me time to focus on everything. Lindsay Jackson, who teaches at Allen Allender School in Marrero, said her academic year has been overwhelming at times, like the day she's been crying in her principal's office. I just sat in the office and said, I just can't do it, Jackson replied. I had wiped one too many tables, and that was just my breaking point, she added. The two views reflect a mixed bag that educators, students, and parents report a few months into a school year unlike any other. Louisiana was still in phase 2 for its economic recovery when classes began for many students on August 3rd. Before the recent uptick, those restrictions were relaxed amid fewer cases of the viruses, allowing the state to move to phase 3. Some students are returning to classrooms after concluding that distance learning was impractical, especially for younger children. West Baton Rouge Parish Schools Superintendent Wes Watts said his districts are rolled back its original rule that students who began the school year with virtual learning could not return to classrooms until January because of heavy demand. What we found, especially the younger kids, were really struggling academically, Watts said. Watts' 4,000 student district began the school year with about 1,000 students going for virtual learning. About 700 do so now, but only 46% of nearly 650,000 public and private school students whose schools have registered with the state are attending traditional classrooms. Another 30% are relying on virtual classes, and 24% have opted for a combination of virtual and in-person classes, according to figures compiled by the State Department of Education. Let's see. Okay, moving on. The High Court backs Calcasieu's judge's recusal and murder case by John Zimmerman, staff writer. Just a day after Judge C. Michael Canaday won in a landslide to keep a seat on the district court bench in Calcasieu Parish, the Louisiana Supreme Court cast a less favorable vote over his handling of a decades-old murder case. The High Court on November 4th let stand an unusual ruling that yanked Canaday from the second-degree murder prosecution of Dennis Jerome Barday. Rarely are judges booted from an ongoing case over their rulings, which appeals courts are there to review and overturn if necessary. But the court ruling suggests that Canaday went overboard in favor of prosecutors who are trying Barday for the 1998 killing a 45-year-old Rose born inside her Lake Charles donut shop. Last year, Canada secretly agreed to unseal records that Barty's attorneys had submitted to him confidentially to justify their need for a DNA expert. His attorneys said the records spelled out their strategy to combat the prosecution's DNA evidence, the heart of the state's case against Barty, now 39. Canada effectively delivered the playbook to District Attorney John DeRosier's office at its request before ever revealing the move to Barty's lawyers, they argued. Judge Clayton Davis, a colleague on the 14th Judicial District Bench, ordered Canada recused from Barty's case after a hearing in February. Davis cited all of the rulings he's made and the appeals court has made, and the motion to unseal that should not have been signed properly without a hearing. A state Third Circuit Court of Appeals court panel agreed with that decision in July. The court finds that a comparison of the facts of its case to the actions expected of a reasonable average judge reveals an appearance of bias or prejudice against Barty or in favor of the prosecution that gives rise to a probability of, risk of, or potential for bias too high to be constitutionally tolerable, the panel wrote. On November 4th, the Supreme Court declined to review that decision in a 5-2 vote. Justices Will Crane and Scott Crichton dissented. Crichton wrote that in Canada's decision to unseal the records without a hearing was arguably wrong, but not grounds for recusal. The decision means the murder case against Barty can move forward under the oversight of Clayton, who in June declined to quash the incident. Defense attorney Adam Johnson argued that prosecutors know they shouldn't have had access to records that Canada unsealed. He claimed that the evidence was retroactively tainted when the defense stratagems were unsealed. Fixing it should mean denying the state the fruits of its transgressions, he argued. But the case more than ever is to be hinged on DNA. Holland, better known for his work as a roving Louisiana death penalty prosecutor, has said that DNA establishes a strong link to Barty, though evidence found at the scene of Bourne's murder. Barty is black, Bourne was white. The reason the DNA is so important is that prosecutors must overcome a botched 2016 interrogation of Barty by Lake Charles police in which they drew out a dubious confession. The Supreme Court issued a ruling in September that largely agreed, tossing out the bulk of the statement Barty gave to police over the course of more than 7 hours. DeRosier's office ultimately conceded to numerous violations of Miranda during the police interview, the court said. Now, anything past the 48-minute mark is off limits at trial. Okay. Let's see. Okay, let's move on to Mr. Edward Edwards, former governor, twice in the state of Louisiana, home after 2-night hospital stay by Gordon Russell. Former Governor Edward Edwards has returned to his home in Gonzales after spending 2 nights in a Baton Rouge hospital with shortness of breath caused by a common head cold, according to a close family friend. Edwards, 93, the only person to serve 4 terms, as Louisiana's governor, was treated at Our Lady of the Lake Medical Center after being taken there by ambulance Friday. He tested negative for both coronavirus and pneumonia, as well as the flu, said Bob DeHamacourt, a longtime close friend. Doctors expect him to make a full recovery, said Leo Honeycutt, another family friend, who was the author of Edwards' authorized biography. DeHamacourt, who spoke with Edwards' wife, Trina, said Edwards had felt ready to come home Saturday, but doctors suggested he stay a second night because his symptoms persisted, DeHamacourt said. We'd like to thank everybody for all the prayers and concern. Trina Edwards said in a statement, he's resting well and is already back to giving orders. Edwards returned home Sunday morning and was resting before watching the Saints game Sunday afternoon, DeHamacourt said. A Louisiana jobless benefits set to run out for $250,000 by Brian Stoll, a staff writer. The last time Will Walker worked a bartending shift, he was slinging drinks at the Zulu Social Aid and Pleasures Club annual ball at the Ernest M. Memorial Convention Center in New Orleans. Within a few weeks, hundreds of makeshift hospital beds for coronavirus patients filled the convention center, and Walker's bartending gigs there and at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome were a distant memory. Unemployment benefits eased the crash, at least briefly, while Louisiana pays among the lowest benefits in the country, capped at $247 a week. A federal expansion of benefits added another $600 each weekly payout for the next few months. That buoyed household incomes and even expanded some of them as the national economy collapsed and previously unfathomable numbers of workers lost their jobs. The extra $600 disappeared at the end of July, though it was briefly replaced with another federal stopgap boost of $300 a week for many workers, courtesy of an executive order from President Donald Trump. But that benefit ended in mid-September after 6 weeks, leaving hundreds of thousands of Louisianians to scrape by on $247 or less each week as they hunt for jobs in an economy that has started to rebound but is still badly damaged. A new and growing wave of coronavirus outbreaks across the country, which have pushed cases and hospitalizations to record levels, now threatens to deal another massive blow to the economy. Louisiana has so far fared better than most other states in the latest coronavirus wave, but public health officials have begun sounding the alarm here as well. Infections began ticking upward last week. Seen only through a narrow and short-term lens, current unemployment claims figures in Louisiana might at first blush look like a dose of encouragement. Earlier this year, claims were at jaw-dropping levels, with about 1 of every 4 workers in the state filing for unemployment benefits, since then the volume of jobless claims has dropped by about 20%, according to state data. 2/3 of those claims were set to expire just after Christmas. In October, more than 130,000 Louisianians filed claims under a special federal program for those who had already exhausted the 26 weeks of unemployment insurance eligibility allowed under state law, a number that is still rising sharply as more people hit the 26-week mark. After the new year, unemployed workers will be largely at the mercy of Congress, said Ava DeJoie, Secretary of the Louisiana Workforce Commission, which runs the unemployment system in the state. Okay, and one last story before we go to sports. Oil rig to embrace new life as an artificial reef. It will be the tallest structure converted in the Gulf of Mexico by Tristan Baruch, staff writer. An oil rig taller than the Empire State Building is undergoing conversion into a habit-boosting artificial reef about 50 miles south of Grand Isle, habitat boosting. The 1,300-foot LENA-compliant tower is the tallest of more than 500 decommissioned oil and gas structures in the Gulf of Mexico to be repurposed as a reef, according to the Bureau of Study and Environmental Enforcement, the federal agency that regulates the offshore energy industry. Excuse me. The long metal legs that support platforms offer attractive real estate for corals, sea fans, sponges, and algae, which in turn draw a plethora of other species and the types of fish preferred by anglers, including red snapper and jacks. Turning decommissioned offshore platforms like the LENA platform into thriving reef environments is a game changer for the preservation of different species, said U.S. Representative Garrett Graves, Republican in Baton Rouge. Platform's proximity to Grand Isle, a popular base for recreational fishing, will elevate the fishing industry and the important economic activity that comes with it. While federal policy requires oil and gas companies to dismantle and dispose of infrastructure after they plug non-producing wells, the Environmental Safety Agency's Rigs to Reefs program allows some rigs to remain on site as marine habitats. The majority of artificial reefs, more than 300, are in Louisiana waters. Owned by ExxonMobil, the Lena platform was the world's first cable-stabilized oil production structure when it was installed in 1983. With decks and drilling rig added, the platform stood about 50 feet taller than the Empire State Building and weighed 27,000 tons. It was decommissioned in 2017 as part of a 5-year collaboration between Exxon and the Environmental Safety Bureau. Lena's top was removed and the steel understructure or jacket was toppled and placed during the summer. The site was approved for the Rigs to Reefs program last month. And it's now 55, which means that our broadcast, our oral broadcast of the news this morning will end at our TV stations, but you can continue listening to us. I have one more story to read, sports related. After this story, you can continue to listen to us at, first of all, at our online streaming service, which is Cypress Street Radio, CYPRESS Street Radio. Put that in your browser, Cypress Street Radio. The homepage will come up and click the play button. You can also listen to us at our YouTube station, which is AOC Community Media. Okay, to continue with the audio, we're turning to coral reef. Lena's top, I read that part. The State Department of Wildlife and Fisheries was assume ownership and management on the site once the area is surveyed and cleaned up, a process that will likely end early next year. The Rigs to Reefs program is a crucial part of BSEE's mission, Agency Director Scott Angel said. Demonstrates how the oil and gas industry and federal and state governments work together to help preserve the marine environment in the Gulf of Mexico. And turning to sports, our Raging Cajuns. Their breakthrough win opens many doors for the number 24 Raging Cajuns by Kevin Foote, and this is his column entitled Timeout, so it's from his perspective. But they are ranked the Raging Cajuns. The Raging Cajuns football team is ranked 24th in the nation, folks. 24th in the nation. Clinching a spot in the conference championship game is one thing. Doing it with 3 games left in the regular season puts the number 24 ranked UL Raging Cajuns in a rare situation. Suddenly, Coach Billy Napier and his staff have 3 weeks, or at least the next 2 against Central Arkansas ULM, to work on the infamous little things to get prepared for the Sun Belt title game on December 19th. That's going to be our focus going forward, is to continue to improve, Napier said. Indeed, starting fast and finally having a leisurely fourth quarter in the 38-10 win over South Alabama seems to open so many doors for the Cajuns, with a record of 7-1 and 5-1 conference play. Most definitely in all 3 phases, cornerback McKay Garner said, "We almost put it together, but we still have a lot of things to fix and a lot of things to work on. We're definitely getting it from this game forward." In Napier's mind, it was almost like hitting the reset button. The whole key is that we take it 1 week at a time, he said, and we have a very specific set of objectives for each player in each position group. As about mastering the routine, we get a chance to start over. For the coaches, it was extra fulfilling because the staff challenged the players and the teams delivered. And of course, the staff got its cake and was able to eat it as well. There's no question that I thought that was our best performance of the year as a football team, Napier said. We still had a handful too many penalties, and we need to learn how to finish the game better on offense. We should not have that significant of a drop-off where we put our twos in the game. We've got a lot higher standards and expectations for those players. You know it's a good week when the biggest criticism is how the second team performs in mop-up duty. Peeling back a few more layers, Saturday's win revealed a few other encouraging factors to UL's hopes. Kenny Almendares wasn't given many overly tough assignments in the win, but he delivered on his only field goal and made all 5 extra points. Don't undervalue that effort, though. Remember, it's been the routine field goals that have given UL trouble most of the season. In Saturday's win, Yes, in Saturday's win, Garner contributed 5 tackles, a sack, and 4 pass breakups. After Saturday's breakthrough performance, it won't be the only. Garner's confidence level soaring the rest of the way. And so let's root for the Cajuns who are on their way to a Sun Belt Championship game, hopefully, in the next few weeks. We'll keep an eye on that for you. Okay, well, that about wraps it up. It's 10 a.m. We do this service of reading the newspaper to our visually impaired audience in the Acadiana community, as well as those who don't get the newspaper or have access to the news cycle. We do this every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. We appreciate you tuning in and listening to our broadcast. We have volunteers like myself that read the newspaper, again, every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on all of our TV stations and on Cypress Street Radio, our online streaming program or service, and at our YouTube station, which is AOC Community Media. If you'd like to be a volunteer, you can go to aocinc.org, pull down the volunteer page, fill out the form, and Miss Mandy will get in touch with you and you become a volunteer newspaper reader like myself. We've been doing it from our home studios because of the pandemic of coronavirus. So the studios have basically been shut down, but we will eventually get back there. So as I say every morning, this is Bruce Cohen. Will always be Bruce Cohen. Again, appreciate you tuning in. And I ask you to stay safe, healthy, and smart. Please be smart. Just read an article about the virus spiking again in Louisiana. We need to stop the spread. Just be smart out there. Wear your mask. Do all the protocols. You've heard me say this every morning when I read, but I'm just trying to stress it so we don't get sick, folks. This is a deadly virus, and we want to keep it under control. And as always, be kind to each other and have a great morning. See you on the flip-flop.